On this episode of the Make Ideas Reality podcast.
Something that I've been sort of accused of is over-engineering the shit out of everything. And by this time, everybody has worked out that Gus is definitely not an academic. When I've got a project on, my insomnia can, my sleep goes down to about 3 to 4 hours. That stool is completely priceless to me. Absolutely would never ever sell it. For all the money in the world. Just you get fucked. That's mine.
Get fucked. Love it. Talking about getting fucked. What does what does happiness look like? Hello and welcome to Make Ideas Reality, the podcast. This is a podcast dedicated to everyday creative heroes making their ideas reality that wouldn't necessarily get their story heard. I hope to inspire you with their stories, give you courage to leave your comfort zone, think big, and be the badass creator you are meant to be. I'm Justin White, aka the Garage Avenger. Let's do this! Hello and welcome to the Make Ideas Reality podcast. Today's guest is a proud Scot. Well, up until recently, I found out he's not. A man not born creative like most. He had to learn his craft before he could boast. Renowned for his detail that would give most a headache, I then couldn't find a word that rhymes. Oh, for fuck's sake. Welcome to the show, Gus Dixon from Man Cave Makings.
No, that's an intro. I love it. I absolutely love it.
Turn your disco lights on.
My disco lights, my new desk scenario of awesomeness. It's Friday. Man cave inside is also, comes good. Yeah.
Welcome to the show, man.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for having me. All nervous and excited, and full of enthusiasm for taste.
Now, I met you. I think we met at Makers Central in 2019, but very briefly, or maybe we just quickly exchanged eyes and
it was definitely an eyes across the table.
Long gaze.
You look at me. You are. Yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely.
Look at that guy's beard. I just want to stroke.
Oh, look at his hair. Wow. I wonder what kind of shampoo he uses.
I did not have long hair like that. But anyway. And then actually you and I really probably didn't really associate very much with each other until I had this big, sofa beer fridge project. And I was crying on Instagram about I couldn't do something or it was all falling apart. And then you're like, hey, I used to be I'm a fridge, engineer, by day, if you need any help. And I'm like, hey, hello, friend.
You're my guy.
So yeah, we had quite a few video chats and talked about the project. We came through a couple of solutions for the sofa beer fridge. You also talked about a lot of the problems I was going to have. I ignored your advice and continued on.
That wasn't frustrating in his life.
And then I decided to drag you into this show because I thought it was about time.
And we've been a little bit remiss because it's been oh, are you free? No, I'm not free. Are you free? No, I'm not free. Sorry, no. Oh yeah. It's just it's timings.
It's you didn't want to be on the show, guys.
I know. I just drag my heels so much. Yeah, but no, I absolutely true. Our friendship kind of flourished on Instagram over your sort of problem of this isn't gonna work. Fuck, what am I gonna do? And I sort of said, It was true. And I said, well, you probably need bigger cooling unit. And it just snowballed from there. And like you say, it was that, I think it was a Saturday afternoon. And I had sort of, and I don't get this very often, where you kind of say, oh, have you thought about this or do this on Instagram? And you get a little bit of text back and there's a bit of text back and forth. You did none of that. I just got incoming call from Justin White. Huh? Okay, hi. It's like this, and then this dialogue just happened. It was ace. And it just reminded me all of that mad sort of problem solving on a whiteboard at work, and kind of just getting heads around the table and solving shit. So yeah, it's good fun.
Well, I sort of saw like, I think I'm kind of opposite to a lot of people. They're happy to hide behind a message and like, do the back and forth for hours or days till they find a solution. I saw someone with experience. I thought I need to talk with this person because I'm a talker, hence why I've got a podcast. And I need to talk with him and find a solution to this problem. And it'd be really often, it's for me, it's better to spitball ideas on the fly, and then you can get feedback on your ideas. And it's just like when I sat down with some makers at Maker Central, I love sitting down and talking ideas out with people because you get that instant feedback. And unfortunately, I don't enjoy the messaging feedback. It's like a very long-winded thing. I'm a very impatient man, so yeah. I was like, oh, screw it, I'm just gonna call him.
Yeah, and I do speak to people on Instagram, and it is a bit sort of sometimes I just want a phone. I'm like that with text messages and WhatsApps and things like that. I'd much rather just group call, yo, and 3 hours later you're still monologuing on the. No, so yeah, I'm very similar in that regard.
Let's get into the show.
Okay.
What is Guss all about? Let's hear a little. If you had to sort of give yourself a bit of a pitch of what you're all about, how would you describe yourself?
Okay. Well, I'm Gus from Man Cave Makings, and I would describe myself as an avid maker of things, and I think that's where the Man Cave Makings bit of it came from, was because I don't make one thing, I make things. So I make different projects, and I make different things out of different materials. So I'm not a wood turner or a woodworker or a fabricator or any of these one sort of specific traits. I like to use everything that I've got and things that I want to have to make things. So, and often or not, I'll make things to make other things. So tools to make tools sort of things. So yes, I am very privileged and in that regard, that I've had an ability to share some of my story on social media, within my YouTube and Instagram accounts. And yeah, I just love that ability to speak to people and engage with people, and for them to tell their story and kind of experiences to me, and me to give out my knowledge and experience across that sort of immediate forums. And I just absolutely love being part of what I class a community-based group of individuals that all want to just help each other. And that's what I'm about, is a maker of things.
For those who don't follow you, like, what sort of things are we talking about? What are projects you're building?
So I quite like sort of industrial themed metal and wood objects, and I tend to make something with function. So like I made a workshop welding stool, all from scratch out of just base materials. I've made one of my more complex kind of projects, which was a patterned plywood mini Bluetooth speaker. which was like a trapezoid, two trapezoid shapes on top of each other that gave a very small compact footprint, but gave this really wild looking kind of object. I do a couple of kind of restoration type stuff as well. I quite like older tools and kind of giving them a little kind of what I like to call a man cave makeover. And something that I've been sort of accused of is over engineering the shit out of everything that I touch, and that's essentially. It was actually on Instagram just this week that we've actually come up with a strapline for that, a hashtag for that, and it's engicaving, and it's engineering, man caving, and educating all in one, and that's what I do. So that's it, engicaving. That's my new hashtag.
I've liked quite a lot of your projects, like just the stool. I think just showing people how easy it is to do like a diamond stitch and things like that in your upholstery. Like considering you haven't done very much of that before, and like it's actually pretty easy. And it looks amazing. And then of course you've got the beautiful stool itself, all made out of steel and looking all fancy, and even like like the Bluetooth speaker, like with the whole patterned plywood, like that just gives that little element which you don't normally see, I think, in a lot of projects. So I like the details that you seem to go into in your projects. I wanted to.
Thanks. I appreciate that, because I take a lot of time, I guess, over the process of thinking about those things. But I tend to want to add detail to even the very basic of tasks. So even just this week, a neighbor of mine popped his head over the wall and he's like, I've got this old IKEA stool and this kind of toilet pan extension plastic thing, and I'm getting into some cheese making. Could you make a press out of that? And I'm like, yeah, I can. Yeah. And it just snowballed from there. And I've made this kind of cheese press thing out of these component parts. But I've added into the bottom just this little bit of styling and a bit of kind of rounded molding. And, it doesn't need to be there. None of that needs to be there. It could have just been a simple kind of screwed together job. But I tend to want to put detail and the unusual elements into something that maybe shouldn't be there. And that's just me. That's just how I like to do stuff.
So the aesthetic is a very big driver in your work. Would you say that?
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. It needs to have something quirky, a little bit different, and definitely something unique to me. I need to have added my own little personal flair to something. So yeah, absolutely. Detail is paramount.
Where did this all start for you? Like, what's your origin story? Where's your comic book one? How does that go?
Yeah, it's difficult for me to kind of tell the story without really going right back, because I feel that most people get elements from their mother and their father, and their childhood and what they're brought up from. So I was particularly blessed that I had a very creative mother, and a very practical engineer, very well put together father in terms of his analytical and engineering sort of brain. So bringing those two smashes together, hey, it's me, I get produced. And that's why I think I've got both creative and engineering attributes to my personality that I have kind of instilled in me from a very, very young age. My mum's official sort of job title was puppeteer. Puppeteer and artist. That was what she did. And she unfortunately she passed away, and a long time ago now. But she was a huge influence on my creative youth of me. Just my father as well. Don't get me wrong. My father was different. He just let me be a boy. And you know, if I wanted to take apart my BMX bike, yeah, crack on, son. Here's some spanners. You know, I'll leave you to it. Bye. You know, sort of thing. And he just let me work it out for myself. And you know, I remember my kind of, you know, we were working on a car trailer because my dad had a vintage car, and we used to trailer it about the place to go and show it at shows and things like that. And you know, we were working on, and I must have been, I don't know, about 8 or 9 or something like that. And I was putting a spanner onto a nut, and I was holding it whilst my dad had a ratchet on the other end because he was underneath the trailer and I was holding this. So I didn't have very much strength to myself. And so he's ratcheting away, and it kept on just bending back and catching my hand and knuckle between the bit of metal and the actual bolt. And I kept on going, ah! And he's going like, what's wrong with you? And I says, ah! And he goes like, well, think about it. What do you need to do here? And I said, and I thought, oh yeah, I just need to push it up, and it would actually, the bar would go against the bit of metal and hold it there while my dad ratcheted. And it's that type of thing. He just let me work that kind of stuff out, and right enough, I did that, and he was like, see, all you need to do is think about it. And it was so true, you know. But I was 8, you know, and I kind of worked that out in the driveway of my folks' house, you know. And so I think that's origin. If you go back to the true origin of me now, I look back at those sort of things and I go, yeah, I mean, it was my mother and father's influences on me of why I became an engineer, why I became a time-served engineer, and why I do what I do now. And absolutely the product of your parents.
Oh, that's so interesting. And I really love the fact that, you know, you talked about your father letting you work things out. You know, like, I think from my perspective, my kids, like, I want to teach my kids how to think, not how to do stuff,
Yeah,
how to
yeah,
think through. Because, like, if they can think how to solve a problem themselves, you know, he leaps and bounds ahead of anyone else that's just been taught how to do one thing, right? So if they can solve problems themselves, like, they learn a lot quicker, and then they can use that in like anything they're doing. And that example of you like learning that, oh yeah, the spanner can just spin around and like hold against a piece of metal. I mean, like, you still remember that now, right?
of course, yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely, because it was the very first time that I can recall in my memory, my dad actually going, little doff of the cap, son.
Mhm.
You actually thought about that. You know, it was sore, you know, because I was getting battered by this wrench that kept on going up. You thought about it and go, well, actually, and you just worked it out. I doff my cap, son. You asked, yeah. You know, it was that kind of thumbs up kind of gratification moment of my dad actually. I thought it was actually pretty cool there, you know. So, yeah. Oh wow, I'm pleased with my dad, sort of thing. You know? But, yeah, and my mum equally, you know, she let me be as well. I bet she just let me be a kid, and she didn't get upset. I've spent all of my childhood was outside. I mean, I was just this. Yeah, I don't know. I don't think I spent very much time inside that I can really remember. It was all outside. I just love being outside. Just love being in nature.
Were you like a creative kid as well? Were you making like swords and bows and arrows and cubby
Uh,
houses
uh,
and stuff, or?
so in our in the first house that I can really remember us living in had a huge expansive garden. It's probably not that big now. You know, it's like Fabs and Whams and all these kind of chocolate bars in the UK that you think as a kid were like this big, and they're actually this big, and you're like, oh, this is so disappointing now, you know. But at the time you're a kid, and it was just this huge expansive garden, and on one side of the garden it was just flanked by a big bank with loads of trees and bushes in it, and I just spent with my sister all my time building sort of hides and trails, and you know, just it was just amazing. We had a swing set, and it was just that kind of childhood for me that if I wanted to make mud pit and, run around naked in the garden screaming with a headband on, yeah, my mum wouldn't care about that stuff. She just like, crack on, son, just crack on. just go and enjoy, just go and be,
Does your wife agree with this in the modern era? Could you run around the garden?
Yeah, we were. we're in quite an enclosed kind of space now, overlooked by other houses, and I'm not saying I've got an ASBO, but the police have been called. But yeah, I really do have a very good and fond memory of my childhood because I was essentially just allowed to be, and my sister as well. We were classic young kids playing together and all that kind of stuff. And then in the sort of teenage angsty years, there was, that kind of friction there. And now we're just such a close bond with my eldest sister and my other two stepsisters. But yeah, it's I feel particularly blessed to have had that childhood, and I definitely think from an origin place, that's essentially, where it all stems from.
Well, you're holding spanners for your dad as a young boy, but like, where did a lot of your skills sort of come from?
So if you roll forward slightly in the timeline, you get to my sort of mid-teens, and by this time everybody has worked out that Gus is definitely not an academic. Okay. Gus isn't going to go to university. Gus isn't going to probably go to high school or higher education. Gus is probably just going to go and get an apprenticeship. And I drove for that. I mean, I was wanting to get out of school as quick as possible. I mean, yeah, I look back at that now and think I would have just been miserable, absolutely horrifically miserable if I'd stayed. And going back to education later in life, which I did, and back to university and all those sort of things, I was ready for it then, but I certainly wasn't ready for it when I was 15 years old. And a beautiful message for any young person out there is, don't be pressured into going to do something that your parents want. Just go and, try and seek your path and what fits for you. But yeah, I left school 3.5 months before I was actually technically allowed to. And I left it around 15 and a half and straight into an apprenticeship. And back then there was a government-led scheme called the Youth Training Scheme, YTS. And it was a sort of government incentive to companies to take on young people that maybe don't have all of the qualifications and all the rest of it, but provided a sort of financial incentive to the company or a tax benefit or whatever. And you took on an apprentice and it was subsidized. So I jumped at this chance of becoming an apprentice refrigeration engineer, and never looked back. I literally never looked back. It was one of the best times of my working career, being a fridge engineer, being an apprentice, and being an engineer, and then being a time-served engineer, and then becoming the journeyman of apprentices, or you taking on apprentices. That full circle, it's just so nice. And I've coveted those days and thought about those days extensively, because I don't do that now. I mean, I drive a desk, and I look back on those days very fondly. They were hard. I mean, don't get me wrong. It's hard work and it's hard, long days, but I learned all of my skills through my engineering career as a refrigeration engineer, then a air conditioning engineer, then a mechanical engineer, then just into sort of middle management into companies, and then for further on from there. But my apprenticeship, that was, I look back on that fondly, because there's just, I was a pain in the arse. I mean, I was not a good apprentice. I was not a good apprentice because I was just too impatient. I just went straight hell bent into stuff and started ripping it apart, And it was a story. My journeyman, Fraser, he and I still see him today. My journeyman, Fraser, every now and again, and I told him this story once, and he says, "Yeah, I remember doing this to you purposefully," and I was like, "You bastard!" And he says, "Yeah, but what did you learn from it?" So, if you don't mind, I'll tell you the little story. So, in a supermarket, they've got in the background, they've got all of these big compressor houses that hold all of the refrigeration gear for the superstore. So, there's just banks of compressors. And my job that day was to go and change out one of these compressors with my journeyman. And so the wiring of these things come into a little electrical box on the top of the compressor. It's just like an explosion in a string factory, right? In this box, it's just a hornet's nest of wires, and nothing's usually marked. Yeah. So my journeyman says to me, "Go and disconnect the electrical box from the compressor, and I'll be back." Now, he knew what I was about to do, which was blah, 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 just me ripping wires out, ripping things out, blah, 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 and just took this thing off. And he came back. We changed the compressor out. And he said to me, "Right, Gus, just wire back up the electrical box, because you took it off, so you'll know where all the wires went." Long pregnated pause ensued, me looking at him dumbfounded, going, no, I thought you were going to do that because you know about the wiring stuff. I don't know about the wiring stuff. He said, "Oh, no, but you took it all apart, so you'll have marked all of these wires up of where they went to and where they came from. You'll have done that, of course. I mean, where's the bit of paper that you would have written all this down? You've seen me write these down before, so you'll have done that, won't you?" "No." "Oh, well, I'll see you later. I'm away to go and do another job, and by the time I come back, that compressor better be switched on." I had to trace every single wire back to the control panel, rip the control panel apart, get all the drawings out, and just work it out back to the basics of where one wire and went to the next, to the next, to the next. And it took me all day, all night, and literally it was like 11 o'clock at night. And Fraser walks in the door and he just goes like that. "So, is it done?" And I goes, yeah, it's all back together. Oh, by the way, I couldn't drive at this point, so I was relying on him to take me from said supermarket back home again. So I couldn't go, and he knew this. I was like, I was super skint. I couldn't afford a taxi. I couldn't afford a bus. I had no money. So he knew that I was just stuck there doing this job. But it taught me that lesson of, you know what, just calm down and take a step back and look at this and just, right, okay, I need to do this, then I need to sort of write this stuff down. But it was just that heart-sinking moment of, I've got to go and get this compressor back up and running again, So, yeah, my apprenticeship was ace. I love my apprenticeship, but it taught me so much about my skill set now.
Yeah, and you fixed houses for a while as well. You built a whole heap of skills in that, and then you end up would you call it a midlife crisis? Like the kids are all leaving the house, and then you decide to start YouTube. And what happened there? Like, did you was it straight into making on YouTube, or what was it?
Right. So let me think. I guess, yeah. So going from my early sort of teenage years into my mid-20s, I have kids. I have my youngest daughter. Nothing happened in this vacuum. I'm not making anything in this period. I am just working solidly, providing and doing DIY. And I've always classed myself as a DIY guy. Either in the whole spectrum of DIY, from painting, plastering, plumbing, electrical, heating, carpet laying, stud walls, the whole shing bang of everything you can think about building wise, I've done elements of to a competent level that I don't need a tradesman for, except for gas and electrical certification. So when you come to actually go and put a boiler in, a gas boiler, I'm not gas certified. Equally with electrical, I can't electrically certify my own system.
Yeah.
So I get to that point. So all of that time is spent doing that. And I get to myself to a point now where I've so my wife now is, we've been together sort of 12 years and no, 11 years. Gotta get this bit right because she's actually
don't screw this up. I can just imagine. She's yelling from the kitchen right now. She's like, it's actually 11.
Absolutely. This. Yeah, I'm in trouble. So from our relationship, blossomed, and I've only been married a few years because we decided to wait to get married. But yeah, the YouTube thing all fell about because this house that I'm in just now, it was the last house that I really took from a sort of derelict-ish state to a very comfortable modern sort of standard. And in that process, I built the man cave. I built this quadruple behemoth of a garage at the bottom of the garden, with full, wife consent. Lorraine was absolutely like, yeah, you've wanted a space for yourself always. So as far as I've known you, you've always talked about having a workshop, so you go make that, you go build that, babe. You just go and do that. And so the man cave was born. And now the man cave for me was nothing to do with man cave makings then. It was just the garage, because when I started my YouTube, or when I started thinking about my YouTube, it was all about cars, because I've always been a petrol head. I've always loved my cars, and I had a sort of I had a grand idea that I was going to do a resto build on a sort of 240Z type inline six kind of stroker job. And it was like, nah, that sounds awesome. That looks beautiful. The sort of Rocket Bunny type body kit, lowered to shit, and sequential gearbox. Yeah, I could maybe do that as well. Oh fuck, roll KJS, awesome, woohoo! We're going for this. Yeah, this is what I'm going to build this man cave for. I'm going to go and do this stuff, and then I got into sort of the idea of going, all right, maybe I'll do I could do a Porsche Chevy transpose and do the big the sort of short block Chevy in the back end, and do that sort of thing, and stroke that, and yeah, all this stuff was going through my head about. It was just all cars. And so my very first YouTube video happened by accident, because I had an Audi, a B7. It was the S4 type, so it just had this big, huge 4.2 liter V8 engine in the front end of it, and it was really tricky to change out a light bulb. And I started looking on YouTube, going, where's the video that tells me how to change the light bulb out? Because it looks like I can't actually physically get my hand in to change the light bulb out. And lo and behold, the sort of the way to do it is actually to drop the bumper off the car and pop the headlight out to change a fucking light bulb. Are you joking? Are you joking me? Some engineer, some prick in Audi went, this is the best idea I've come up with all week. We're going to drop the bumper off the front end of this car to change a light bulb out, and it's like, really? And then I found a really horrible video that said that you didn't need to do it, but it was just, it didn't make sense and blah, blah. So I just worked it out again and realized that if I took this little thing off here and that thing out here and got my hand down here, I could do this. Hey, magic. So I managed to change both these bulbs out. And then that was my very first video. And I thought, so that's what this YouTube thing's all about. The video is terrible. It's horrific. I mean, it's the worst thing that, what I do now versus then. I mean, if you watch my videos as they go through, you will just see that kind of evolution of videography and editing. So hopefully now it's a little bit more polished and a little bit more watchable. But that's essentially what started my YouTube, was this video. And then I didn't do another one until I had to. I was making some furniture. Actually, I don't know whether you've seen it on Pinterest or one of these kind of platforms, but storage it in your underneath of your stairs, and it pulls out on drawers.
Yeah.
So the whole thing comes out like a wardrobe. So I built this, and I didn't. So it was back to the sort of building joinery type scenario, and I thought I'll do a video on that. And I've never ever released this video, by the way, and it'll never ever come to light because it is horrific. It is so bad. It is like horrific. Anyway, I had to drill holes in MDF to put dowels in, and I needed to come up with a repetitive way of doing that I couldn't do with just a battery gun or something like that, because they needed to be so accurate, because I was joining two pieces of wood together. And so I came up with this router jig and method of drilling holes with my router skid. So that was my sort of second video, and then it just started building from there. And so yeah, it's kind of went from this car thing into what it is today, which has got absolutely nothing to do with cars. And I don't know whether I will ever do the car thing, to be fair. I think I'm probably likely to keep with the making of many things for a long time. But yeah, I find myself quite lucky in that, because my kids now are older. My youngest is 21, but she doesn't live with us. She's got her own house, and she works and lives in the Highlands of Scotland. And my eldest daughter, she's still at home, but she's actively seeking for a job and things like that. So it's just me and my wife, and I love spending time with my wife, and we do stuff together and all the rest of it. So I'm quite fortunate in that I don't have massive time commitments, so I can go and I can dedicate the time to myself because I can. So that's why I can, be in the man cave. So yeah, that's kind of the evolution.
I love that it started on like those tutorial videos on like how to change a light bulb in a car. Because do you know what? I've got a bit of a funny story. My neighbor, I swear to God, we him being Norwegian and all that, we don't talk to our neighbors so.
Because you're weird, aren't you? That's right.
Yeah, I'm a weirdo for one, and so here am I changing this light bulb in my car, right? And it was a tricky motherfucker. Like, it was not. I'm getting frustrated, and I'm saying things like, "You fucking bitch, get the fuck out of there!" Like, I'm gonna fucking break you. Like, I'm gonna I was saying all sorts of things. What I didn't think about was he was working in his garden, and he thought I was saying that to Kristen, So he's come over thinking I'm like an abusive husband.
Oh God.
And so I think to this day, like I didn't even put two and two together when he came out. I thought he was actually just being like a nice neighbor for once. And be like, hey, I'm over here. But he's actually coming over to see probably that like I wasn't hitting my wife.
Actually, you were trying to sweet talk a light bulb.
Oh my God. So yeah.
You should have maybe tried to be like, hey baby, you know you're gonna come out of there, don't you? You just need a little bit of persuasion.
Yeah, he would have. God. So yeah, but I think my neighbor still thinks I'm a like abusive husband. But I did manage to get that light out. So
you did get that light out, absolutely. Yeah. And I guess that kind of whole piece around YouTube, that's the bit that really spurred me into other things, because I kept on getting messages on the YouTube stuff that I was making about. Have you seen this guy? Have you done this guy? Have you seen what this person's up to, or this kind of thing? I was like, oh, I don't know anything about that. There must be another medium here that I'm missing. Because I'm okay, but I am no sort of Bill Gates. When it comes to tech, I struggle. And so my wife, she loves her Instagram stuff. She's oh, you should maybe just go on Instagram and see what sort of happens. And I was like, oh, all right, cool. So I set up an Instagram account, and this is where people get it wrong. I've been on Instagram since February last year.
That's amazing.
Right. That's how long I've been on Instagram for. Right. That's when I started my Instagram, was February 2019. And then I go, holy shit, look at all of these people doing this. They do what I want to do that. I want to do this. And oh my God, this is amazing. And it just explodes my mind into why has it taken so long for me to find this maker community that I didn't know even existed until February last year. I'm 46 years old this year, and I found something out last year that's just blown up in my face, because it's just like, what is going on here? And from there, it was from February. I then snowball into all sorts of people's accounts, and Maker Central was my cathartic moment in life of meeting the handsome debonair garage Avenger, of course. But it
was my highlight too. That guy's.
But yeah, just walking into that auditorium type massive space, and just feeling like, holy shit, I'm home. I'm literally. This feels like the best place in the world to come all the time. I wish this existed all the time in Aberdeen, because that's where I'm at. Because I know absolutely nobody in my area that does the stuff that I do. I feel so isolated, and I just felt like I was just warmly welcomed through the doors, and it was just a mind melt. It was just, holy crap. I came back from that trip on cloud nine, and it just carried me for so long, because it was just, wow, I found my tribe. I really have found like-minded people, and it was just tremendous. It was such a fun event. It's just awesome. And I was a fully paid up member for this year, and it didn't happen, and then it got postponed, and then I signed up for that as well, and that got postponed, and so I'm really hoping it's gonna happen next year, because I'm gonna be there, bells, whistles, the whole 9 yards again, because there's just so many people that I actually want and talk to regularly now that go and have been. And I just can't wait to meet these people in person, have a beer, shoot the shit, get horrifically drunk, and just talk shop nonstop. I just can't wait for that. I'm just so buzzed for it. I am. Oh yeah, so buzzed for it.
Yeah, I can't wait for it either. I was a bit bummed that it didn't happen, like this year, and I think, like, I remember sitting at Birmingham train station because I had to go somewhere. I can't remember. I was waiting for a train, um, and I remember feeling like depressed that it was all over. Like
Yeah,
I was like,
absolutely.
oh, why can it last longer? This is crap.
Yeah.
Yeah. I wanted to jump a little bit into your creative process a little bit, making your ideas reality. Um, where do you like you come up with an idea and then you have to be able to think out the process of making that idea reality. So my process can be interesting. Like my process can be like in the shower, I'm like ding, or I can like physically like go out and be actively looking for solutions for things like out on my walks with my dog, for example, or like I'll go into the city because if I are in the city, I know I'm going to see like lots of mechanical things that might inspire me. What's your process of making your ideas reality?
So my main sort of process is all functional type need based ideas. So everything I've made to date is either for me or for somebody else specifically, and it has a function and form to it. But the ideas that I generate from how to make them and the sort of inspiration of material choices and shapes and the type of style that comes from usually comes from um, what I see. So um, the shape of my stool legs, this sculpted type of shape, came from War of the Worlds type shape. Their bodies are rounded and things like that, but the legs come out and then extend down. It's very elegant sort of line and all the rest of it. So that was where I got the inspiration to make these sculpted legs for the stool sort of idea. Um, and I love sort of industrial design. I like bridges. Okay, call me weird. Okay, don't judge. We're all
Yeah,
friends here.
I'm
But
like, I love bridges. I'm thinking like one of my projects, I'm gonna make a mini Sydney Harbour Bridge and put it over something, like make it like over some sort of like creek or something.
yeah,
I
yeah,
don't know
yeah,
why, but
yeah,
I
yeah.
feel like I need to do that.
Well, when you do, let me know, and I'll book a week, and I'll come and help you because I would love that kind of shit. Bridge design, Brunel and sort of industrial types, wrought iron, riveted type arrangements, and the webbing and arcs and how arcs shape together with more straight edge structures, and then the stone in some cases and the suspension, all of those sort of things all have influences on me in my more industrial type themed stuff. So definitely nature sort of what I see, and that is where I get those inspirations from. I have to sort of shout out the people that have inspired me in terms of the ideas. So um, I always try my very best to be honest about where my ideas have come from. So in my Bluetooth speaker build, Michael Arm, who does beautiful furniture and pattern plywood, I would have never have done that if I hadn't seen his YouTube stuff. you know, and being inspired to make something. Chris Salomon from Four Eyes Furniture, you know, he's into his sort of mid-century modern trapezoid shapes sort of stuff. I wouldn't have made these two trapezoid shapes come together if it wasn't for him. You know, it's these sort of things that I always say, well, I see them. Now, how can I make it mine? How can I make it my idea, my spin? How can I add and embellish on that already? You know, so and that's what I try and do within my creative process is look at something that I want to make, look at what's around me that's made like that or making, you know, if something already exists, I don't want to recreate that. I want to create something that's mine, that's my invention of an idea, or an evolved idea from somebody else. Yeah. So it's that type of thing that I try and do myself, you know.
Do you lose sleep over your ideas when you're sitting there, like, you know, wondering, oh, how am I going to do this? Like, yeah.
Well, you already know the answer to this because you saw my Made for Makers update, you know. But I'm an insomniac, yeah. So my insomniac comes and goes depending very much on what's going on in my brain, and it's all usually idea generated, man cave ideas. So I fret to death about the thinking of the process. So you asked about the process and my creative process. Well, my creative process starts with the idea, and the generation of that idea then quickly turns into a mental 3D model, and I think about that for an inordinate amount of time, ridiculous amount of time going to thinking, and I do that usually at 3, 4, 5 in the morning, kind of sitting there, just kind of staring into the blackness, running through things in my head. I usually get about 6 hours of sleep a night. 6 hours of sleep, usually a night, when my insomnia is not there. Like if I haven't got much to think about. When I've got a project on, my insomnia can, you know, my sleep goes down to about 3 to 4 hours. And I can sustain that for probably 6 to 8 weeks of that kind of level.
I couldn't do that.
Sleep.
Holy shit.
Before it becomes a problem, and it's been a problem in the past. It absolutely has been a problem in the past, whereby Mrs. Mancave has definitely stepped in to say enough is enough. You're done here, my friend. We need Gus back. Yeah. So and I think that I'm okay with it because I covet that time in my bed because it's my time. It's my thinking time, and I try to deconstruct everything in my head, and it's quite difficult to explain, I guess. But if you can imagine an exploded diagram, so in an IKEA sort of catalog, when you get the bit of furniture that you have to make, it comes with this exploded diagram of the parts and how things fit together and which screw to go in which hole and all that kind of stuff. That's my creative process for everything. For absolutely everything I do, that's the image I have in my head. And I extrapolate these things out in my head and, right, okay, I solve one problem, that go bolts onto this problem, right? I need to solve that problem, right? These now can link together, so that's now no longer a problem, right? The next thing is this, and that's how I build out my creative process within my head. And you know, I've talked to you about it before about, you know, you do some 3D printing and modeling and things like that, and it's absolutely something that I would love to have afforded myself some time to learn, because I think that would really help. Certainly when you're, that kind of process of optioneering at the early stages and being able to make something and then go, that's definitely not going to work. That's not going to work. This shit, oof, make that. I then go and test that in the workshop, thing. And that can often just suck up so much time, and yeah. So I don't know whether I'm just rambling now. Am I about my process? But I guess
you talked about sucking up time. I mean, like, I find the balance of, trying to balance my family, balance what I'm trying to do with this podcast, balance what I'm trying to do with the YouTube stuff, and anything else I want to do, right? And I had a friend call me today. I haven't spoken to him for weeks and weeks, and I classify him as my best friend, but we don't hang out anymore because I just seem to always be busy, right, with all the things I'm trying to do. Like, do you ever get a feeling of like overwhelm with what you're trying to do?
It's one of the hardest things, and it's one of the hardest things that I manage, and is time, and time for me, because I only found this maker community and me being a maker and calling myself that since last year. I feel time is just, I haven't got enough of it. I don't have enough time to do everything, to do it all. And I want to do it all. I've got a passion to do it all. I've got a real drive. I want to do more. But no, that's not how life works. I've already mentioned that, I've got older kids, so that's not a draw on my time. But my wife and my relationship, I love spending time with my wife, and I find that balance very difficult between quality time, workshop time, family time, social media time. And it's the social media time that really is probably the crux of friction, because it is that draw. It's that little light and buzz on the coffee table at midnight, or 9:15 at night, or whatever, and it's that instant draw to, ooh, what's that? Who's that? That kind of thing. So I find balancing all of that very challenging. I have a very tolerable wife who loves me unconditionally, because if she didn't, then I think my man cave makings would be a real problem.
Yeah, I actually think the same for me. Like, with a different person in my life, I don't think I could do this.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think I would have that support. So I think that, like, I've said this, I think I said this in episode 10 with Kristen on my podcast, like, without that supportive person helping me, like, I can't do this. So I actually need to look after her when she needs it. And so I talked about this 5 love languages thing, and speaking her love language, so that I can actually be more effective in the time I have with her, so that she feels more valued. So, like, in the short times that we do spend together, I make sure that it's quality time, it's speaking her love language so that she feels loved, and then she can let me go do all this other stuff that I want to do, and it goes the other way too, right? So, like, she needs to go do something, like, I've got no choice but say yes, go do it, because she gives me that, like, flexibility to whenever I need to go do something.
And I absolutely recognize that, because I do try my very best to support my wife in all of her activities that she loves doing. And you're absolutely right. Without that person, without Lorraine and Kristen in our lives, we would be poor men. We would be poor men, and I'm enriched by her being my wife, my soulmate, and I often really beat myself up about that time balance and spending time selfishly versus a relationship and the wider community in terms of your family, your friends, your close loved ones, all that kind of stuff. And it's a real tough balance. It's a real tough balance, especially if you have a drive to do something. Like I'm a nightmare when it comes to YouTube type video release date type scenario. Like I am stressed to hell, because if you do YouTube stuff, you will understand that you spend an enormous amount of time making something, filming something, editing something, stressing over the music choice, the intro, outro, side credits, the amount of time that this draws, this sucks up, and then you're about to press that button that makes it go live, and then you're just waiting and hoping that it kind of somebody watches it or somebody responds to it. And I am a nightmare on that, and Lorraine she just like. She'll just leave. She will actively leave the house and just not be here because she just doesn't want me. She doesn't want to see me go through this kind of angst and stress about this thing that I've put together, and I'm now just at that point of, and
I
she
think
understands that now.
I think it's got a lot to do with, like, I feel like for me, when I put out a film, I've put so much effort into the build, I've put so much effort into the video, and you put like your heart and soul into it, and then you're putting it out to the world for judgment, and it's hard not to like take it personally when it like no one sees it or no one wants to see it or whatever, because you feel like you've invested so much time. And I mentioned this to you before, like I have a bad relationship with time. Like
Yeah,
like I struggle to justify the hours. Like I'll go into the garage and I'll start working, right? And then 6 hours within a blink of an eye is over. And I walk out and I'm like, shit, it's fucking like 3 o'clock in the morning. And this is what I say to myself all the time. I only made this, right? And I
yeah,
think this is a really bad thing, and I'm trying to get better. Do you have that same issue?
100%. And I mean, and I absolutely agree. It is that because my time is limited and because I want to make every minute count when I get into your workshop space, I have this almost planned out sort of scenario of what I'm going to achieve that evening, that session, whatever you want to call it, and you come to that end of that session and you've not achieved that, you just feel deflated by it because you've spent all of that time doing something and it just didn't work out that way, or I've got to come back to it tomorrow, and then I've got to eat more time into something else that I said I would do for somebody else, or this other thing, or shit, and it yeah. Do you procrastinate
I
over it,
No, I
over
don't.
stuff, not
I
do
don't.
stuff?
I'm not a big procrastinator. I will sometimes there's days where I don't want to go in. I
Mm.
was actually talking to Kristen about this yesterday. I was like, I feel like what I do is I'll go and I'll go out of the garage, you know, and then that's the point where I feel there's procrastination, because the scary bit is, going in there and failing. But once I'm actually doing the work and I'm actually like doing the creative process, and I could be failing in that, but I'm actually working on it. I don't feel scared to be in there. But like before I go in, I'm like scared. I'm like, what if like I spend all this time, right? For example,
Yeah.
like working on this part of the project and it doesn't work. And like I say, like I've got a bad relationship with time. I'm like, shit, like I invested so many hours in this and it didn't work. Right. And
Guilt-fed failure, isn't it? You know what
right.
I mean?
Yeah. So like, and then I feel guilty too because like Kristen gave me this time, right? She'll say
Yeah.
like, oh, you've got like, for example, tomorrow she's giving me time in the workshop.
Mm.
And I feel like I have to make the most of that time.
Yeah.
Otherwise, like otherwise I won't achieve what I want to achieve. And
Mm.
it's not all the time Kristen says like, here, I have a full day in the shop
Yeah.
because I've got small kids and I've got other things going on and
Yeah.
family and all the rest, right? So
I really like your analogy over this sort of bad relationship with time. And I like I've heard that from you before, and I've thought about it, and I like, yeah, that's actually quite an elegant way of putting it. It is that relationship I have with time probably isn't the healthiest.
yeah, measuring like a productivity over time in the creative process is kind of stupid because
Mm.
it's not an efficient process.
Yeah,
It's chaotic, most of the time.
yeah,
There are certain people that draw everything up on the computer before they go
yeah,
do that, but they also use a lot of time dicking around trying to like change the drawing. Oh, I don't see it. Oh, that's not going to work out. So they use a lot of time on the computer first, then they're more effective in the workshop.
mm.
Whereas like people like you and me, we don't do computer work. We just go in guns a blazing and go, oh, that didn't work.
Boo, 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 boo.
Shit, that didn't work. Oh crap. All right. Well then now I need to
Just,
try that again.
scrap that in the bin.
Yep. And that defeat is also hard for me because I always tie it to the time I get. So
Yeah,
like I know I have to change that. And I actively try and use logic like to try and like break my thought patterns around that. So I'll tell myself like, what the creative process is like. It's random. It's chaotic. Like you can't
yeah,
measure, this thing. Like look what you actually did. Look what the process you use takes hours. Like you can't
mm,
expect any more. Like I'll use logic to try and diffuse
yeah.
my like disappointment or you know frustration that I didn't or wasn't more effective in the time I had.
So
So
I think for me, I I try not to think of the bigger picture too often because it's a pretty scary place to be for me because I'm all about the details. I'm detail driven.
hmm,
So I sort of almost box in each segment of the work that I'm going to do, sort of like compartmentalize them into smaller sections so I can deal with them more effectively when I'm in the workshop. And of late, that's been really tricky because I've got some really nice tools that have arrived that of late that I've just wanted to go and play with, but I've got this thing to do. So, I'm like, well, I'm not going to look at those things too hard. I might get distracted, squirrel moment type stuff, but I'll use my time today because that's what I want to do. I want to get this thing done or this thing done, and I box things off in that way. So, um, the bigger picture, if the bigger picture started creeping in, then woohoo, yeah, I'll go in and play on this, lathe over here and go and learn how to do knurling or something like that. You know what I mean? Because I've always wanted to do that. I was like, oh, I've got the tools, I've got this and all. But that's not the time. The time bound today is go sand this box to a 600 grit because that's what today is about. So that's
well,
the time function for me.
I heard something interesting. um Instead of writing a to-do list, you write a would like to do list. And that mental change can make it easier to deal with not actually achieving like that tick in the box.
Okay.
So if you tell yourself, like, I would like to make the remote for the sofa beer fridge, for example, this weekend, and you don't achieve it, you're like, yeah, well, it was on the would like to do list.
It's not on the to-do list because that's an exact. Yeah.
Because that becomes a time pressure, thing, which adds to the stress. Yeah. So it's a hard balance to find, and I, like, me personally, I'm always searching for more information about how to do things better, how to think better, so that I don't feel those stresses and things over those things like launching a video, for example, or finishing a project or whatever it is. I want to be better. So I listen to a podcast called The Art of Manliness, and that often has like a lot of really informational like hacks on how to think, how to like put in things in your life, and it's super interesting too. I mean, they got a lot of really like amazing guests, and the guy's been doing it for 12 years, so he knows what he's doing. So nearly 700 episodes. So
Jesus, right? Yeah.
Go check out The Art of Manliness if you haven't checked that out, guys. Like, I don't care if you drop this podcast to listen to it; it's well worth it.
I do. God damn it!
Don't drop this podcast.
Don't drop this podcast. Yeah. Wait till the end. Wait till the end. Big fanfare.
I want to get into inspiration. You talked a little bit about finding inspiration from like other makers that you're watching on YouTube, for example, with your Bluetooth speaker and stuff. Like, are there any other ways you find inspiration?
Yeah, I definitely feel that the in general, I'm a pretty positive minded person. Yeah, so self-generation of inspiration to go and do stuff. There isn't very many times that I'm not in the mood. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Say no more. And people that inspire me can come from all sorts of different places. I'm a social media type junkie when it comes to content. So YouTube and Instagram, the people who are making things and making cool stuff, I definitely go, oh yeah, that's that. Oh yeah, that's cool. I'll follow that along. And inspiration for me can come from a podcast, can come from a YouTube video, or just being around like-minded people. Can be enormously inspiring. But usually it's coming from the community. It's coming from the maker community, where I see somebody doing something cool. I'm like, oh yeah, you're my dude.
Yeah, I can't believe you haven't started a sofa beer fridge yet.
Yeah, I can't believe so either. But the reason we hooked up in terms of a friendship and all the rest of it was because I started commenting on your content about a sofa beer fridge.
Yeah.
I didn't watch any of your stuff before then. Well, I didn't know you then, but it was this concept of a sofa beer fridge. Fuck, that sounds cool. That sounds like that's something interesting. That's something that I have not seen, heard of. It's unique. Oh, wait a second. This guy must, this guy's got something. I'm going to go and follow along this story, and then lo and behold, he's got a problem that I can actually.
Oh my god! Get the tickets off myself. All right. Oh, Jesus. All right. Get off it, Justin. Get off it.
Fucking
Besides
so
me inspiring you, though, like, with sofa beer fridges and all, are there any creative heroes that sort of like you're properly inspired by all the time?
yeah, I've got a couple in mind that do inspire me regularly. One who isn't a sort of classic maker. He is a maker, absolutely a maker, but not in our maker community. A guy called Mike Patey, who's an aviator, and he builds planes and flies them, and it holds a few world records for these planes. But his energy is what I draw to. I tend to draw people with energy and passion for what they do. If I don't follow anybody that doesn't have passion. I won't follow anybody on YouTube or Instagram that's not passionate about what they do and gives a shit about what they do. But Mike is he's just a ball of energy that has an extensive brain and capacity for work. And he does everything from scratch and builds everything himself, most things for himself, out of steel, carbon fiber, avionics, wiring. This whole plane. And if you've ever heard of a plane called Draco, it was just a stunning plane, and he crashed it, and his family was on board, and he was lucky to get out and all that kind of stuff. The very next, there was still smoke coming from the fuselage, and he was just like, "Hey guys, I've just crashed Draco. It's dead. It's absolutely dead. We're all fine. We're all fine. Everybody got out. Everybody's fine. There's no injuries, no nothing. The plane's dead. The plane's gone, and it is all my fault. 100% pilot error. And I will do a full video on this to tell you what went wrong." And he did, step by step, broke it down. But his whole process is about showing you what he does and in this capacity of his brain to make stuff. And it is phenomenal. He's groundbreaking stuff. He's literally his opening lines are something. It's maths, it's physics, it's I can't remember it all, but it's just this kind of like, it's all about bringing everything together to make something, and he's truly inspiring. And he's gregarious and very kind of American in his strap line, and he does this with his fist. He's like a back to work, and it's this back to work, and everything's back to work because he's just all focused about the work. And it's phenomenal. It's really good. So Mike Patey, go check him out. He is tremendous. And then there's a couple other people across the globe that really get inspired by Scott Turner, Foam Industrials. He makes furniture and cool stuff in my style. It's just in a kinship. He's just got an eye for detail, an eye for cool shit, and he makes really cool stuff. And he's awesome. Martin Calnago, he's another one, brilliant kind of maker. And yeah, there's just so many people that I can take inspiration from, on a day by day basis.
Yeah, I'll put all those guys in the show notes, and like you can even give me some more after the show. I'll put them all in there, and if anyone wants to go check them out, they can just click the links.
Yeah, and I tried not to give you the sort of big accounts, because the big accounts for me are also pertinent to my maker career. No, my maker journey. make a journey. We'll go make a journey. Because it all started off with, obviously, for me anyway, Jimmy DiResta, but there's many more that just absolutely continually inspire.
Yeah, 100%. Actually, I'm going to stop saying 100%. I'm going to say 251%. That's what that's my new thing.
It's not a number. It's not a number. Can't have it. Can't have 101%. Can't have any more than 100%.
All right, I'll go 99.99%. Yeah.
Cool. That's more like it, my friend. I'll accept that.
Let's get into Hack Attack. You wanna share any tips or tricks with the audience?
Yeah. So I do a lot of metal work, as you know. So metal, I usually have a metal element in most things that I make, and mill scale is a pretty kind of standard thing that you get on all metal work, on all steel work, I should say. And it's usually pretty difficult to get off and get back down to a base material without grinding it off. But I don't do that, and I use it's called a non-woven paint preparation wheel on a grinder, and it looks like a bit of sponge almost. That's how it looks, and you think to yourself, bloody hell, this thing's just going to disintegrate and just explode, and it's going to be no use. But it absolutely takes mill scale off and really preps the paint, the steel really well. So you get very specific mill scale removing pads from the bigger kind of organizations. They're usually really bloody expensive, and you can do things with acids like muriatic acid and things like that. But I don't have time to let these things soak for a few hours or whatever. I just want to get on and weld and all the rest of it. So in the UK, you pick these things up at like Tool Station and Screwfix, I think, more than Tool Station, but certainly, and they're pretty cheap. They're like £6-7 a disc, and they last a good amount of time. But you will get back down to a base, shiny type metal surface ready for welding and or paint even, without actually removing much of the surface of the steel. So it's not like a flapper wheel disc where you're actually removing material. This is more polishing it out, so you actually have to remove it without going into the substructure there. So really handy little tool to have, and real time saver. So that's my hack attack.
Nice. I wish I actually had better ways to clean my metal. I just seem to like weld it all rusty, and that, of course, gives really bad welds. Yeah. Well, I got to learn these things the hard way.
Don't do that. Don't do that, Justin. Please don't do that.
Let's go into rapid fire 5. You ready?
No.
Fill in the blank. Creativity is
true maker freedom.
I like the word freedom when it comes to creativity. I really think that connects with me. Whoever says freedom, they're like in my books. They're like, yes.
Hey, I made it. I made it. Yeah, absolutely. Creativity for me is maker freedom. The creative maker freedom that you get from making stuff without boundary, really, and influence from others. You're just free to go and do what you have in your mind. And it's making your there you go. It's making your idea reality. It's full circle. It's this shit isn't just made up,
We got it. Love it. All right. What's something people get wrong about
you? Probably everybody thinks that
you're a Scot at heart, but you're Newcastle. Is it Newcastle?
Newcastle born, yeah. I've been here all my life. being in Scotland all my life. I'm actually from born in Newcastle, so yeah.
Sorry, I interrupted
People,
you.
no, it's perfectly fine because I'm now going to have like half my Instagram following going, you what? Delete. That. But no, I absolutely class myself as a Scot, and just because I've lived here all my life.
Yeah.
But something that people get wrong to me is that I'm actually socially awkward. I might come across as pretty confident in front of the camera and on Instagram and YouTube and maybe this interview, but I'm actually quite socially awkward around larger crowds and sort of being able to do the small talk. I am rubbish at small talk, like crap. I'm okay
I don't think
like
you're
in Maker
alone there.
Central.
I don't think you're that alone there. Like when you're in your crowd, it's easy. But like, you know,
Yeah,
I talked to, who was it? Like I think it was Tony, talking to Tony. Um, you know, he was talking about like,
great interview by the way. I really enjoyed it.
yeah. I mean, he's said himself, he's like, he's super awkward in social environments. He doesn't know what to say because he's a machinist. Like he loves
Yeah.
being, you know, a machinist, and people don't care about a 5-axis CNC machine. Like, you know,
Five what?
yeah, you have to be in your right crowd. So I think, like for me, like I take that away. Like I was at football training with my son, you know, and like me trying to actively like engage in small talk. You know, Norwegians are closed in the first place, but trying to get in there and be social, you know, like I'm forcing myself in there, like personally to push myself out of my comfort zone because I know I got to make friends. You know, like I'm pretty much alone here, so
Yeah.
yeah.
I find that super difficult. So yeah, that's something that people get wrong about me is that they think that the persona that I carry on in my crowd am like this all the time. I'm not. I struggle.
I think you're not alone. I definitely think so. What's your favorite thing to do when you're not being creative?
Be with my wife. My relationship, and be that. But
How much
but
did
for
she
me
pay
personally,
you to keep on saying this? Did she like?
no, not really. It's just that honestly, Justin,
She's
she
gonna
is
be
a
listening to
massive.
this right now. She should be like,
She's a hey, she's a massive part of my life, and I am really don't give a flying fuck who knows that I actually do love my wife so hard. It's ridiculous. So I don't care. I simply just don't care that people know that. And so yeah, but for me personally, cycling. I'm a very keen cyclist. I do a lot of road miles and keep myself active and my exercise on my bike with the guys is yeah. I really like that time. And,
hmm.
and I give up workshop time for it. It's not like it's an ad or it's I give up my workshop time for it. And in the summer months, um, we can be doing 150, 200 miles a week, sort of territory. And in the wintertime, it's not so much.
What's a project you think is completely priceless and you'd never sell?
My workshop stool.
Yep.
My workshop stool is completely priceless, and maybe not because of what you think. It not because it's got the numbers in my YouTube traffic or anything like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, it's because of what it symbolizes in my maker journey. It's the first piece of functional art that I made that I'm super proud of, like pumped about. It's the first piece that offered me a link to other people in so many ways. So you might know, but I don't know whether you do. Jefferson College in Missouri, or I'm not affiliated with them, but I got an email from them, and I've now got this beautiful relationship with the college. And I got an email out of the blue from a guy called Dylan, and he just says in the sort of strapline, it's like, "We made your seat." Open photograph, and there's him and 13 of his classmates all sitting on my seat, all sitting on my design.
Oh, that's amazing.
They took my YouTube channel information and turned it into a welding class project for the college. And this is a technical college in the US. And their tutor, Joe Candela, I now class him as a friend. He's so cool, and the college has been tremendous, and the people in it, and it's one of the most beautiful experiences of my making career thus far. Is that little seat and what it's turned into, and even just this week, a friend of mine who lives local to me that is now also a maker and does things. He made my seat as well and did his own little video on it, and then credited me into it, and it's just that kind of stuff. It's just that stool is completely priceless to me. Absolutely would never ever sell it. For all the money in the world. Just you get fucked. That's mine.
Get fucked. Love it. Talking about getting fucked. What is what does happiness look like?
I find happiness in just about every day that I spend in my space doing the things that I love doing with the people that I love. I don't think so. Happiness is not being too hard on yourself, not taking yourself too seriously, not taking life too seriously. Love the people you love them hard, and just be kind to yourself, and that will bring you happiness. In my view,
I think the people that you surround yourself with are the most important things. You can do, because you put bad people in your life turns to shit. Put good people in your life turns out great. That was a great slow 5-5.
Yeah, that was another thing.
That was
you can
my
never
fault,
do anything
by the way.
quickly with me, because I can, I talk. I'm sorry. Jesus.
No, that was my fault.
I'm sorry to have messed up your whole podcast. It's gonna be another monologue. Sorry, man.
I was saying that though. Let's wrap this up. Anything you want to give the audience to sort of take away home with them today?
That's a hard one, actually. I guess just be positive about what you try to do, and don't beat yourself up too hard if you don't achieve. Social media isn't about numbers. Yeah, it isn't about how many followers you've got. It isn't about all that kind of stuff. It's about how you can interact with people, build relationships, build your tribe, and be part of something that's bigger than you, and be an active member. Don't be a passive one. And what I've found so far, and literally February last year to now, I haven't had a bad experience when I've actually reached out to somebody, and just said, "Hey, what about this?" And they go, "Yeah, here's the information, or here's the thing, or and I find that from the small wee guy with 59 followers and 3 million posts to the guys that have got hundreds of thousands of followers and still have the time to talk to you. So be bold, be brave, get yourself out there, and in the words of Mr. Berkey, go make.
Love it, man. Thanks, Gus. Thanks for coming on the show. It means the world to me that you'd eventually, clear your schedule and allow yourself to be on the show. I want to thank everyone for listening. If you're not following Gus, please head over to Instagram. Actually, I forgot to ask you, where do people find you, Gus? Where
YouTube and Instagram are my only mediums, purely because my mental headspace can't cope with anymore, and my darling wife would freaking kill me. So YouTube, Man Cave Makings, and at Man Cave Makings on Instagram. And from there you can shoot me an email, and we can go from there.
Nice. So yeah, YouTube and Instagram, Man Cave Makings. Guys, if you want to be one of the cool kids, you can join the GA Nation. That's a Garage Avenger Nation, by heading over to Patreon. Otherwise, you can support me and the show just as much and its amazing guests by simply reposting and sharing this podcast. I mean, it's so simple, and it would mean the world to everyone that's been on this show and those that are going to be on this show, which could be you. And so if you repost it, that'd be great. And we can build this podcast a little bit up and get people the platform they need to be heard and seen, which is amazing. And you could also, if you really wanted to, create a fake virus called Mirvid Shuen, like 21, where the cure would be to listen to this podcast. By the way, I hope everyone's doing well out there with the whole COVID stuff. That was a bit of a awkward joke of mine. If you,
I was thinking to myself, I'm just waiting for the reversing, like. Beep.
If you want to give me some feedback, I want to hear it. I need to grow this show. I need to give you guys value. I'd love to hear what I'm doing right. I'd love to hear what I'm doing wrong, more importantly. So, if you guys can send me a DM on Instagram, let me know. Please don't be shy. Like, you can lay it all out there, guys. Tell me what I'm ballsing up. Tell me what you guys like. And I'd really, really appreciate that. Please go check out Gus at Man Cave Makings. The link is in the show notes. Until next time, guys, keep pushing yourselves, keep ballsing up things, keep learning, get inspired, and I'll catch you on the flip side. Done.
Yeah.